I need to put my little stool there. Thank you very much, sir. Ma'am. A little bit more would be great. Thank you very much. The name of this play is Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder and produced by the Ashfield Community Theatre. In it, you will see Ms. Davis, Miss Tracy, Miss Kane, Mr. Lobley, Mr. Darrow, Mr. Gabriel the Younger, Ms. Klein, Ms. Monahan, Mr. Epstein, and many others too numerous to mention. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just over the line from Massachusetts. Latitude, 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude, 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The date is May 7th, 1901, just before dawn. Yeah, just about. The sky is beginning to show some streaks of light in the east there, back of our mountain. Morning star always looks wonderful bright the minute before she has to go. Well, let me show you how our town lies. Up here is Main Street, cutting across it. To my left are the railroad tracks, and on the other side of the tracks is, well, Polish town. You know, foreign people who come here to work at the mill. A couple of Canuck families and the Catholic Church. The Congregational Church is over there, Presbyterian across the street, Methodist and Unitarian over there, Baptist down in the holler by the river. Next to our post office is the town hall, jail's in the basement. Bryan once made a speech from those steps there. William Jennings Bryan, that is. Along Main Street, there's a row of stores, hitching posts and horse blocks in front of him. The first automobile is going to come along in about 5 years. It belonged to Banker Cartwright, our town's richest citizen. He lives up in the big white house up in the hill over there. Right here is the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into those stores about once a day. Right here is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. And this is his back door. And here are some trellises for those of you who feel like you need to have some scenery. This is Mrs. Gibbs's garden. There's corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, heliotrope, and lots of burdock. In those days, the newspapers came out twice a week, the Grover's Corners Sentinel. And here is Editor Webbs's house. And this is Mrs. Webbs's garden. Just like Mrs. Gibbs's, except it has lots of sunflowers, too. And right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town, you know what I mean? No one ever remarkable ever came out of it, as far as we know. The oldest tombstones up in the cemetery there say 1670. They're Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Herseys, same names as around here now. Well, as I said, it's early morning. The only lights in town that are on is in a cottage on the other side of the tracks where a Polish mother just gave birth to twins. Oh, and in Joe Kroll's house where Joe Jr.'s getting ready to deliver the morning paper. And in the depot where Shorty Hawkins is waiting to flag down the 545 to Boston. Yeah, there she is. Well, naturally, all around in the country, there have been lights on for some time now, what with milking and so on. But town people, they like to sleep late. Well, so another day's begun. There's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street, coming back from that baby case. And here is Mrs. Gibbs. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, a long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio. And she died there, pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. She's up in the cemetery there now, in with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church over there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Well, there's Mrs. Webb coming down to get her breakfast, too. And that is Doc Gibbs. Got the call to go to Polish Town at 1:30 this morning. And there is Joe Kroll, delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Joe.
Want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it.
Anybody been sick, Doc?
No, some twins over in Polish Town. Joe, I see that your teacher, Miss Foster, is going to get married.
Yes, sir, to a fellow over in Concord.
Well, I declare. Well, how do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it ain't none of my business. But I think if a person starts out to be a teacher, she ought to stay one.
How's your knee, Joe?
Fine, Doc. I never think about it at all. Only like you said, it always tell me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? Going to rain?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Knee ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
Let me tell you something about that boy, Joe Kroll there. Joe was awful smart. Graduated from the high school here, head of his class. So he got a scholarship to Boston MIT, that is. Graduated the head of his class there, too. It was written up in all the Boston papers at the time. Joe was going to be a great engineer. He was. But the war broke out, and he died in France. Yes, sir. All that education for nothing. What business he had picking a quarrel with the Germans, we can't make out to this day. But it all seemed perfectly clear to us at the time.
Come on, Bessie. What's the matter with you?
And there's Howie Newsom delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
Pair of twins over to Mrs. Goroslowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Yeah. Gonna rain, Howie?
No, fine day. It'll burn through. Oh, come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Going on 17 now. Bessie's all messed up about the route now that the Lockhart stopped taking their quart of milk every day. Wants to leave them a quart just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Old habits.
Yep.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. Doc's just coming up the street.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Seems like you're late today.
Yeah, something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was. Doc?
Howie.
Children,
Come on, Bessie.
children, time to get up. George,
easy as kittens.
Sit down and drink your coffee. Bacon will be ready in a minute. You can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Well, Mrs. Wentworth's coming over at 11. Guess I know what it's about, too. Stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you better get more than 3 hours sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what is going to become of you. I do wish you would go away someplace and take a rest. I think it would do you good.
Emily, time to get up. Wally, 7 o'clock.
I declare you have got to speak to George. Seems like something has come over him lately. He is no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
Well, no, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George, Rebecca, you'll be late for school. George!
George, look sharp.
Yes, Pa.
Don't you hear your mother calling you?
Wally, you'll be late for school.
Guess I'll go upstairs and take 40 winks.
Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up there and do it myself.
Mom, what dress should I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night and needs his rest. I washed and ironed a blue gingham for you special.
Oh, Mom, I hate that dress.
Hush up with you.
Every day I go to school dressed like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mom, my dress is going so bad me.
I'll come up and slap the both of you. That's what I'll do.
We got a mill in our town, hear it? Makes blankets, Cartwrights on it, and running water.
Now, children, I won't have it. Breakfast is good as any other meal, and I won't have it gobbling like wolves. It'll stunt your growth, and that's a fact. Wally, put away your book.
Oh, Mom, by 10 o'clock I got to know all about Canada.
You know the rules as well as I do. No books at table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
Well, speak to your father about it when he's rested, but seems to me 25 cents a week is enough for a boy of your age. I declare I don't know how you spend it all.
Oh, Mom, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I've been saving it up gradual.
Well, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
I gotta go.
Let it go, Mom.
Bye, Mom.
Now walk fast, but you don't have to run. Wally, pull your pants up at the knee.
And tell Miss Foster I send her my best congratulations. Hey, George! George!
Yes, Mom.
You look real nice, Rebecca. Pick up your feet.
Come on, Rebecca.
Here, chick, 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 chick. Here, chick, chick. No, you. Go away, you. Here, chick, chick. You don't belong to me. Where'd you come from? Fight, fight, fight. That's all you do. Don't be scared. Well, no one's gonna hurt you. Oh, good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Well, I still get that tickling feeling in my throat. I told Charles I didn't know as I go to choir rehearsal tonight.
Well, have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but somehow I can't seem to do that and stay on the key. While I'm resting myself, I thought I'd show me some of these keys.
Oh, well, let me help you. Keys have been good this year.
I decided to put up 20 pints if it kills me. Children say they hate them, but I notice they're able to get them down all winter.
Myrtle, I've got to tell you something, because if I don't tell someone, I'm gonna burst.
What Julia Gibbs?
Myrtle, did one of those second-hand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. First, I thought he was a patient wanting to see Dr. Gibbs. He wormed his way into my parlor. And Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's highboy. As I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs?
That old thing. Why, it's so big I didn't know where to put it. I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know? $350? What's come over you?
If I could get the doctor doctor to take the money and go away someplace on a trip, I'd sell it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's been the dream of my life to see Paris, France. It sounds crazy, I suppose, but for years, I've promised myself if we ever had the chance.
Well, how's Doctor feel about it?
I did beat around the bush a little bit and said that if I got a legacy, well, that's how I put it, I'd make him take me.
What'd he say?
Well, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he said. It might make him discontented with Grover's quarters to go traipsing about Europe. Best leave well enough alone, he says. Well, every 2 years he makes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's treat enough for anyone, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Mr. Webb's a good mind to give up Napoleon and move over to the Civil War. Only Dr. Gibbs, being one of the greatest experts in the country, just makes him despair.
Well, it's a fact. A doctor is never so happy as when he's at Antietam or Gettysburg. Oh, the times I have walked over those hills, Myrtle, stopping at every bush, pacing it all out, like we was gonna buy it.
Well, if that second-hand man's really serious about buying it, Julia, you sell it. You'll get to see Paris all right. Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Well, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only it seems to me that once in your life before you die, you ought to see a country where they don't talk in English. And they don't even want to.
Thank you very much, ladies. Now, we'll skip a few hours. But first, we want to know a little bit more information about our town. Kind of scientific account, you might say. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch in a few details on the history of man here. Professor Willard. May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? Just a few brief words, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Of course. Well, Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say it's some of the oldest land in the world. And we're very proud of that here. There are some more recent outcroppings of sandstone showing a shelf of Devonian basalt and some Mesozoic shale. But these are comparatively new, perhaps 200 or 300 million years. And some highly interesting fossils have been found. Well, I may say unique fossils 2 miles north of the Peckham farm. Well, Silas Peckham's cow pasture. Well, these may be seen in the museum at the university at any time. Well, that is, at any reasonable time. Shall I read from Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation, mean precipitation, etc.?
I'm afraid we won't have time for that, Professor. We might have a few words on the history of man here, you know.
Anthropological data.
Yes, yes.
Early Amerindian stock, Cotahatchee tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era, and now entirely disappeared. But possible traces in 3 families? Migration in the early part of the 17th century in English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock, and since then some Slav and Mediterranean.
Professor, the population.
Well, within the town limits, 2,640.
Professor, just a moment.
Oh, yes. At the moment, the population is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality and birth rates, constant. By McPherson's Street, 6.03.
Very much.
Oh, not at all,
Professor.
sir. Ma'am, not at all.
This way, Professor. Thank you very much, Professor. I know we're all very much obliged to you. Thank you. Now, for the social and political report, Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb.
He'll be here in a minute. Oh, he cut his hand while I was eating an apple.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Everybody's waiting.
Mr. Webb is the editor and publisher of the Grover's Corner Sentinel, our local paper, you know.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirect. We're lower middle class, sprinkling professional men, 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republicans, 6% Democrats, and 4% socialist, and the rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, rest indifferent.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town, if you ask me. A little better behaved than most, probably a lot duller. But our young people here seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduating from high school and settle down right here to live, even when they've been away to college.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask Editor Webb any questions about our town?
Is there much drinking in Grover's Corner?
Well, ma'am, wouldn't know what you call much. Saturday night, the farm hands meet down at Ellery Greenhouse Stable in Hollisum. We've got one or two town drunks, but, well, they're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. Ma'am, I wouldn't say liquor is a regular thing here, except in the medicine chest. Right good for snake bite, you know. Always was.
Is no one in town aware?
Could you come forward, please, sir, where we can hear you? What was it that you wanted to ask?
Is no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Yes, everybody is. Oh, something terrible. Oh, it seems like they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Why don't they do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all hunting like everybody else for a way the diligent and sensible can rise to the top and the lazy and quarrelsome sink to the bottom, but it ain't easy to find. In the meanwhile, we do all we can to help those that can't help themselves, and those that can, we leave alone. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Webb?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Webb, is there any culture in Grover's Corner, any love of beauty?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much. Not in the sense you mean. Well, come to think of it, there are some girls who play the piano at high school commencement. But they ain't happy about it. No, ma'am, there isn't much culture, but well, maybe this is the place to tell you that we got a lot of pleasures of a kind here. We like the sun coming up over the mountain in the morning. And we all notice a good deal about the birds. We pay a lot of attention to them. And we watch the change of the seasons. Yes, everybody knows about them. But those other things, well, you're right, man, there ain't much. Robinson Crusoe, and the Bible, and Handel's Largo, we all know that. And Whistler's Mother. Those are just about as far as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Now we'll get back to the town. It's 2:00. All 2,000 642 have had their lunches and all the dishes have been washed. The children have all gone back to school. There's a humming and a buzzing in the school building. Only a few buggies on Main Street, horses dozing at their hitching posts. You all remember what it's like. It's an early afternoon calm about the town. Doc Gibbs, in his office, tapping people, making them say, ah. Mr. Webb over there, mowing his lawn. 1 man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower. Well, no, sir, it's later than I thought. The children are already coming home from school.
I'm sorry, I can't, Lois. I've got to go home and help my mother. I promised.
See you some other time.
Emily, walk simply. What do you think you are today?
Oh, Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Oh, golly. Never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
Oh. Excuse me, Miss Forrest. You go out into the field and play ball, young man. You have no right playing baseball on Main Street. Awfully sorry, Miss Forrest. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech today in class.
Well, I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine, but at the last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase instead. I worked an awful long time on both of them.
You know, Emily, from my window up there, I can just see your headlights when you're doing your homework over in your room.
Why, can you?
You certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you can sit still that long. I guess you must like school.
Well, I always feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it really, it passes the time.
Yeah. Emily, what do you think? We might work out a kind of telegraph system from your window to mine. And once in a while, you could give me a kind of hint or two about some of those algebra problems. Oh, I don't mean the answers, Emily. Of course not. Just some little hint.
Oh, I think hints are allowed. If you get stuck, George, you can whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
Emily, you're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah. But you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says whenever I'm ready, I can come over and work on his farm. And if I'm any good, I can just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, Emily, I better be getting back up to the baseball field. Thanks for the talk. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George. So long, George.
So long, Emily.
Emily, come here and help me shell some of these peas for the winter. Well, George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he's growing up. How old would George be?
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see, he must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today and I was very good.
You must recite it for your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase, it was like silk off a spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, is this enough?
Try to do a few more if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. Both my children's got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Oh, Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you yes. Now that's enough of that. You have a nice, young, pretty face. I've never heard of such foolishness.
Oh, Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Well, yes, I was. If I do say it, I was the prettiest girl in town, next to Mamie Cartwright.
But Mama, You've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Come along now and bring that basket with you.
Oh, Mama, you're no help at all.
Now, I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. I had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Well, of course, we're putting in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Editor Webb's Sentinel. Now, we're kind of interested in this because some scientific fellas have found a way of painting all of that reading matter so it will keep 1,000 or 2,000 years. We're putting in a Bible and a copy of the Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it, and all we know about them is the names of kings, some copies of wheat contracts, and the sale of, slaves. Yes, every night, those families sat down for supper, the father came home from his work, and smoke went up the chimney. Same as here. But all we know about the real life of the people, even in Greece and Rome, is what we can piece together out of the joking poems and the comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So, I'm having a copy of this play put in the cornerstone, so people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us, more than the Treaty of Versailles or the Lindbergh flight. You see what I mean? So people 1,000 years from now, this is who we were. This is who we were in the provinces north of New York in the beginning of the 20th century. This is who we were in our growing up, and in our marrying, and in our living, and in our dying. Now we'll get back to Grover's Corners. You can hear the Congregational Church choir singing. It's evening. The children are all at home doing their schoolwork. The day is running down like a tired clock.
All right. Now do it again. And remember, ladies, music came into the world to give pleasure. Now try it again. Let's be the Softer! Now look here, everybody. Get it out of your head that music's only good if it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them even if you wanted to. Now again, tenors.
Hello, Emily.
Hello. My, isn't the moonlight terrible?
Emily, did you get the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Why, yes, George. That's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it. Well, Emily, could you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
In yards. How do you mean?
In square yards.
Oh, in square yards.
Yes, George, don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper.
Oh! I see. Square yards of wallpaper.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome. My, isn't the moonlight terrible? And choir practice going on? I think if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way to Conticut. Hear it?
What do you know?
Well, I guess I better go back and try to work.
Good night, Emily.
Good night, George.
That's better. But it ain't no miracle. Oh, I forget. How many of you will be able to come in Thursday afternoon and sing at Fred Hersey's wedding? Show your hands. Oh, that'll be fine. That'll be right nice. Once again. Art thou weary? Art thou languid? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk.
George, can you come down here a minute?
Yes, Pa.
And remember Sunday to take the second verse real soft and sort of die out at the end.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only keep you a minute. George, how old are you?
Me, I'm 16. Almost 17.
And what do you want to do after school is over?
Why, you know, Pa, I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early and milk and feed the stock, and you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Sure I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, George, when I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. And what do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. Now, they see your mother getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still, she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it was easier to do it herself. And you eat her meals, and you put on the clothes she keeps nice for you, and you run out and play baseball. Like she's some hired girl that we keep around the house, but that we don't like very much. Well, George, I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I decided to increase your spending money by 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a sort of present you give her, but because you're getting older, and I imagine you must have a lot of things you must find to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
Let's see, tomorrow is payday. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca will feel she ought to have some more, too. I wonder what could have happened to your mother. Choir practice was never as late as this before.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she's in that old choir anyways. Hasn't any more voice than an old crow. Traipsing around the streets at this hour of the night. It's about time for you to retire, don't you think?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, Martha. Night, Mr. Foster. I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know who will put that in the paper. Good night, Elma.
Mine's great. Real nice choir practice tonight, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Myrtle Webb, would you look at that moon? Potato weather for sure.
Now, naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of those others, but now we're alone. Really? It's the worst scandal there ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stinson!
Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of the church drink and drunk year after year.
Now, Luella.
Julia, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Simon Simpson, and we all know about the troubles that he's been through, and Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson sees it fit to keep him on in his job, well, the best the rest of us can do is not to notice it.
Not to notice it? But it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen anywhere near as often. My, how I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Gracious, I've got to hurry. Children will be sitting up till all hours. Good night, Luella. Julia.
Good night, Myrtle. Can you see to get your way home, Luella?
Oh, it's bright as day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling in the window now. You'd think we'd been to a dance the way the men folk carry on. Good night, Julia.
Good night, Luella.
See you on Sunday.
I'll see you then. Well, we had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Oh, Frank, I didn't any later than usual.
And you gossiping on the corner with a lot of hens.
Oh, Frank, don't be grouchy. Well, come out and smell my heliotrope in the moonlight. Come on. Isn't that wonderful? And what'd you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read, as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there was something to gossip about.
Simon Stinson. Far gone, was he?
The worst I have ever seen him. Frank, how will that end? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
I guess I know more about Simon Stinson's affairs than anybody in this town. Some people just aren't made for small town life. I don't know how they've lived, but there's nothing we can do but just leave it alone. Get it?
Well, no, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
Well, I think it's my duty to make sure that you get a real rest and change. And if I get my legacy, well, I'm going to insist on it.
Oh, Julia, there's no sense in going over there again. Come on, it's getting late.
What's Frank?
First thing you know, you'll catch a cold.
Look, you're just unreasonable.
Yeah, I get George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for a while, anyway. Oh, no, stop getting it.
There's always so much to pick up around here, seems like. You know, Frank, Mrs. Fairchild always locks her front door every night. All those people up that part of town do.
Well, they're all getting city-fied. That's their trouble. They haven't got anything fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out, Rebecca.
Well, let me just look a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? I think maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer. There'll be a big explosion.
Oh, Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon was getting near, the guys who sit out all night with the telescopes would see it first. And they'd tell us about it. It'd be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights in town are out. There's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. He must have been held up with something tonight. And there is Editor Webb.
Good evening, Bill.
After putting his papers there.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yeah.
All quiet tonight?
I saw Simon Stetson rolling around a little. I saw his wife moving out to hunt for him, so I looked the other way. Oh, there it is now.
Good evening, Simon. Seems like most of the town has settled down for the night pretty well. Yes. Good evening. Most of the town seems to have settled down for the night, Simon. I guess we'd better do the same. Can I walk along the ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, seen a peck of trouble. One thing after another. Oh, Bill, if you see my boy smoking cigarettes, just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you, Bill.
I don't think he's smoking no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Least way is not more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Good night, Bill.
Good evening, Mr. Webb.
Who's that in the window up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know. I just can't sleep yet, Papa. My, isn't the moonlight wonderful? And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs's heliotropes? Can you smell it?
Yes. Haven't any troubles on your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
I never told you about that letter Jane Crawford got from her minister when she was sick. Wrote her a letter, and on the envelope, the address was like this. It said, Jane Crawford, the Crawford Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What's funny about that?
But listen, I'm not finished. United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what's in the envelope.
What do you know?
Yep, and the postman brought us the same.
What do you know?
Well, that's the end of the first act, friends. You can go out and smoke now. Those of you who smoke. Those of you who don't can go downstairs and buy some treats from the nice folks down.